Sunday. So, I want to talk to you about the role of the amateur versus the professional. You can see I'm quite sunburned. Spoke about it last night a bit. At least I know I got my vitamin D quota for the day. Anyway, so I want you to understand that the words amateur and professional are not actually diametrically opposed. In fact, the two can coincide. One of my long-term life goals is really to be a professional amateur, because shit's fun. But really, what you're dealing with is, well, let's look at the etymology. A professional is one who professes. It's the same root word as professor, and it comes from the word profess, which originally stems from taking religious vows and to proclaim publicly. It's really all it is to proclaim publicly. And we associate the term professional with somebody who is an expert, but more than an expert, who is gaining their living off of that. Because one would assume, if you're professing publicly, that you either have the time or have the means to do so. And in much truth, back in the day, people would stand in the town square and profess publicly, and people would gather around and listen and buy them drinks, buy them food, give them money, kick in the face, throw mud on them, throw rotten vegetables at them, depending on their personal viewpoints. But the idea of the professional, etymologically speaking, is just somebody who is promoting what they do publicly. And in that vein, it is the idea of somebody who is in business. A teacher, a professor, is very much doing this. Any of our jobs that we do, technically, if you work retail, you're a professional stocker or cashier or whatever. It's not a very entertaining or enlightening profession, but if you love it, you love it. And that brings me to the other side of it. It's the amateur. Amateur literally is the French for lover. And it's somebody who loves doing what they do with no thought of monetary gain. The amateurs are really the nerds. They're the ones that become obsessive about a subject or a thing or a craft or whatever, and they dive into it so deep because they're truly in love and passionate about it. And I've spoken before, I don't really like the word passion because it often denotes a lack of self-control, but I do like the word amateur, because amateur really says what it means. It's somebody who loves what they do. And love doesn't necessarily have to be uncontrolled. And not that passion by rote meaning is uncontrolled, that's how it connects in my mind, and I don't like it. But with this idea of the amateur versus the professional, it's the hobbyist because, oh, this is neat and it makes my brain tingle, versus the professional who says, I have to share this. You can be both, and you should be both. If you are professing something that you are not in love with, you're probably going to get burned out, and you're probably in the wrong profession. And if you're an amateur, you have to somehow have the means to support your love. And I see no better way to support your love than to do it professionally. And that may not be for everybody, and you may feel that your profession has no real market value, and that's fine, that's up to you. But I assure you that everything that you do has a story, and people are interested in stories. People are interested, in You. You just have to convince them. You have to convince them that you're worth listening to. And, maybe you are an amateur in the true amateur sense of the word, and it's just love. You don't care even about sharing it. Perhaps you are particularly selfish about your love, and you want it to just be exclusively your thing. It's your little secret. It's your obsession, your love. Provided you're not harming anybody, and I would extend that to provided you're not harming yourself, then I think that's your call. That's certainly your call. But at some point, don't you wish that you had more time in the day for the things that you love, or more money for the things that you love, or both? More access to the resources for the things that you love? It's an interesting idea to me that one would want to love and partake in something, but not pursue it in a fashion that would allow them more time and resources for that. For me, you know me, I am quite obsessive about martial arts. It's my thing. I wouldn't be fulfilling myself if I wasn't trying to break out of, where I have been the last decade, and trying to move into a more professional atmosphere, because there's so much more training to be had. There are so many more books to read, so many more videos to watch. There's just not enough time. And the only solution is to break away from what's holding me back. So that's what I'm aiming towards. What about you? I mean, are you a gamer? Are you a fan of something? I mean, use that to your advantage and use that love to do something with it. I mean, at some point, you might have to admit that your love, your passion isn't really going to garner you much, success in certain avenues. I mean, being the biggest Star Trek fan in the world isn't going to get you much more than a really popular Facebook page. But, maybe you can do something with it. Or maybe you don't want to. And that's fine. I would urge you to become a professional amateur. I would urge you to find a way to support yourself doing the things that you love, because if you can't, if you don't, then you're missing out on the full expression of those things that you love, or at least in my experience you are, because the universe is a really, really big place, really big, and there is so much to be had. And if you limit yourself to being a weekend warrior for your passions, you're probably going to be missing out on some of the cool stuff that happens during the other 5 days of the week. I mean, that's metaphorical in a sense, because, not everything happens on the weekends. But the fact that I felt the need to explain that to you means I got too much sun yesterday. Now, I know normally these are 10 to 15 minutes long. We've just hit the 9-minute mark. And I think I've said what I need to say. So I'm going to cut it a little short today. Just remember, being a professional amateur is attainable. It's useful and it's worthwhile. Give it a shot. Give it a go. Talk to me about it. I'm always interested in the conversation. Talk to you later. Good journey.